In this video, I'm going to show you how I got pro level spin, and I'm going to give you a few drills that I use with my clients to help them get more spin in their disc golf backhand. All right, this is a question I get asked all the time from both viewers and clients. How do I get more spin in my backhand? Will you do a spin tutorial? So here it is. Here's the spin tutorial. If you've watched my shorts, you know I am a very consistent spin thrower. I can get high spin at low speeds. Okay, I have a short out right now called "The Speed Really Equals Spin" or something like that, and I get, a pretty absurd amount of spin on a very slow throw. Okay, so I'm going to go over kind of what I think about to get that kind of spin, how I got my spin as high as it is now, and what you should do if you want to get more spin in your backhand. Okay, so conceptually, it's pretty simple, I think. Okay, we have our hand on the outside of the disc at some point in the throw. Okay, we want to curl into the pocket, or even if you're kind of a shallower pocket, right? Your hand is on the outside of the disc at some point. If you have a good disc golf throw, it's very, very hard to have a good disc golf throw with your hand on the inside of the disc because you're going to get no spin. Okay, so that's all we're really focusing on. And how I think it works is the shorter amount of time we can take to get our hand from this side of the disc to this side of the disc, right, is going to impart more rotations per minute onto the disc. That's how I think about it. That's how I improve my spin, and that's how I teach my clients to improve their spin. Okay, so very simply, if you can leave your hand on the outside of the disc for longer and move this whole contraption, but not open the wrist or swing the disc outward, but move the whole contraption forward farther before the wrist uncoils, you're going to get more RPMs. Okay, that's how I think about it. So the first drill we're going to do to help with this is very, very simple. That's all we're going to practice is keeping our hand on the outside of the disc for longer. Okay, it's going to feel like you're basically towing this whole contraption right forward until the very end, and then it's going to naturally have to uncurl. Okay, so we're basically delaying when we uncoil our wrist as long as possible. Very, very simple. That's all you do is start it on the outside of the disc. Your grip really doesn't matter that much. You can basically go a little bit deeper with your thumb. I see Eagle McMahon do this a lot, a little bit deeper with a thumb, which makes you feel like it's kind of curled in naturally. It's very easy to kind of cup your hand, okay? And that's going to put your wrist or your hand basically even further around the back of the disc, all right? So you can start from even farther away and tow that and get even more kind of rotation at the very end in the same amount of time, okay? But your grip really doesn't have that much of an effect on your spin as long as you're getting whatever rotation you do have at the very end of your swing, okay? Now, deep pocket versus shallow pocket. I find people with deeper pockets, right, who keep the contraption together for longer in the swing have more spin, generally, okay? I know there are some outliers, but that's just what I find with clients. If they keep this contraption together, they're going to have more spin usually. If they throw from their back shoulder, right, this is just a longer time for my wrist to get from this side to this side. It's slowly giving it up instead of very quickly giving it up at the end, okay? Now, this is not an active motion. I'm not flicking my wrist, all right? That is not what we're doing. If anything, right, the active part is getting the wrist in far and then just leaving it in until it's forced out, all right? So first drill, very, very simple. We're going to put our hand on the outside of the disc. You can go even further around if you want, but I wouldn't really recommend going so far back that your hand's like away from the target, okay? So, somewhere on the side of the disc is going to be good. That's all you're going to do is, nice and slow, you're going to focus on leaving your wrist on this side as long as possible, okay? Until it's forced out. And you're not going to uncurl your wrist. You're going to leave it loose. You just want to leave it there as long as possible. Now, I get questions, can I just curl my wrist the whole throw? Okay? The answer is yes. You can curl your wrist the whole throw, and I will prove it, okay? Never uncurl your wrist, no problem. Okay?
66.8 miles per hour, 1,410 RPM.
So 1,400 RPM. This is how Tristan Tanner throws. Okay, there are a couple other pros who throw like this. Now, is it the absolute best for speed? I don't think so. I think you can get a little bit more dynamic wrist curl if you uncurl to flat at the end of the reach back and then curl back in, kind of naturally let the wrist come in with the inertia and then let it come out naturally as well, okay? I think it's a little better, but it's not that much better, okay? I've thrown curled wrist to teach myself how to keep a curled wrist, how to get more spin for months, and it was fine. I had great spin, I had great speed. You totally can do it, and if you are someone who has a lot of trouble, right, getting this movement, staying relaxed, getting the disc inside of yourself, right, try a curled wrist. Try just leaving this thing curled, even at reach back here, and just throwing with it curled the whole way. It 100% works, and it probably won't make you slower, all right? So, we set up, we're here, and the only thing we're focusing on, right, is one, getting the disc in between our hand and us to start, right? If you're someone that extends at reach back to flat, you need to get this disc here so that it's in between you and your wrist. And then you need to keep it there as long as possible. It's not that hard. That's all you do. And you can do this with a curled wrist the whole way if you want, is here. And then we're just thinking, keep it outside, keep it outside, keep it outside, keep it outside. That's all we're thinking, okay? Instead of throwing like this, right? We're just towing this whole contraption as far as we can until the very end. Looks like this. Okay?
64.9 miles per hour. 1,341 RPM.
So, that's the first drill. It is very, very simple. You are teaching your body how to basically keep your wrist outside longer, okay? The second drill is a lot more complicated, and it's a lot more dynamic, and it requires a timing piece. So it is gonna be harder to hit your timing with than the first drill. But I have found not only does it improve people's spin, but it usually helps them get a bit of speed as well, okay? I call this drill the Spirit Bomb drill, just a random name I made up, because the way it works is, right, our goal is to basically fold our whole body and self out toward the back. So if this is my target, I'm gonna fold everything open, extend my chest, open my chest, retract my shoulder blades, right? Extend my wrist. I'm basically opening up to the back here. Open, and then it's all we're gonna do is we're gonna close everything as we pull forward, okay? That's all we're trying to do. And this is to teach you kind of this dynamic, right? Here, get everything inside, curled up, balled up, coiled up, and then it all unravels, okay? So that looks like this. Call it the Spirit Bomb drill. You just open, almost folding yourself out toward the back, and then you close and pull, okay? Looks like this. Okay, so as you can see, it works really well. It's not that complicated, right? Those are the two main things I focus on to get more spin. Those are the two main things I focused on to get my spin to 1550, okay? This Spirit Bomb drill, right, is just focusing on this dynamic movement of getting the disc as coiled up inside of myself as possible, right? And then we just let it stay coiled until the last second, right? It unravels us. That's all we have to think about. There is no manual flick of the wrist. Like I said, if anything, Nick Crush talks about flicking the wrist in, okay? So at reach back, you flick the wrist in. This is that same Spirit Bomb cue, okay? We're extending, flexing, right? Out, in, boom, okay? So I recommend a nice loose grip on this, right? Spirit Bomb drill, whoom, boom, okay? And then basically the towing all the way to the very end, okay? Those are my tips on how to get more spin in your throw. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear other people's theories on how to get more spin in the throw. If you think I'm wrong, leave it down there. And if you want personalized coaching, check me out on Formero. That's all I got for you guys today. As always, peace.